Hoping that a few of you have managed to get in today. I'm Laura, Customer Champion at Formisimo. Today, we're going to be doing a webinar. As I said, some of you may know me already as Customer Champion. I am in the live chat on the website. I'm one of the people that helps you through your free trial and helps you with any problems you may be having. So you've either spoken to myself, Tom, or Al. In this webinar, I wanted to let you know there's a live chat box that's being manned by my colleagues Hazel and Tom. So if you have any questions as we go through, they'll be answering them for you. You can also tweet us. If you look at our handle in the right-hand corner, you've got @Formisimo. Just tweet us any questions you have. Alternatively, use the hashtag Formisimo. And you can also email me at any point at laura@formisimo.com with any questions that you may have. Okay, so what are we going to be doing today? Well, today's webinar, as you may have known from your invitation, we're going to be looking at how to uncover hidden insights within Formisimo by showing you how to interpret all of our reports so you can use them to improve your forms and increase your conversion rates. We're also going to be looking at some of the advanced features and trying to explain them to you so that you can, again, make the most of Formisimo. And we're also going to give you the opportunity to ask us anything. So we've got the founder here, Tom, who created the company along with Al, and we've also got Hazel, who runs our blog and content. So hopefully between the three of us, we'll be able to answer all of your questions. Okay, so why does Formisimo exist and what do we do? Formisimo is here to really stop this problem. So this is when you go into a form that's buggy, that's long, that's causing frustration, a lot of customers have this kind of problem. We're here to try and eliminate that problem so that they can complete the forms nice and easily and you get all the conversions you need. Ideally, when you get that, we're going to get you as close as possible to 100% conversion rate. So that's our aim. How are we going to go about doing it? Those of you that have already trialed Formisimo or are one of our paying customers will know that we rely heavily on objective data based on user interactions. So we provide you with insightful data that's analysed and displayed in the best possible way to allow you to identify the pain points and barriers preventing form visitors from converting. So most of our users use it in one of the following three ways, though of course you all may have your own reasons for using it. We get people that are looking to fix a problem, so they've noticed their form isn't performing how they'd like it to, or they want to tweak it a little bit and they're thinking there's something not quite right, so they can use Formisimo data to find out where those pain points are and change them. Also, people are coming up with new forms, new website designs, new layouts, might want to measure the successfulness of the redesigns and overhauls. We also have users that, use it to monitor their ongoing performance in terms of looking for early warning signs of any problems that may be happening with their form. When devices, OSs update, when Chrome updates, it may affect the way your form performs. And this will give you some early warning signs if that affects your conversion data. Okay, so those of you that are looking to track a form, when you come into Formisimo, you're going to be setting up an experiment. That's what we like to call it when you're tracking your form. The process is super quick and easy. Most of you will be up and running within 60 seconds. And if you're not, that's why I'm here to try and help you through that process. So it's a really quick process. You add your form, you add the code to your page, and then you're up and running. When you access Formisimo, you'll be brought to a screen like this. This is just a little screenshot out of it. Here you'll be able to see when you've got some new data coming through. Though those of you who've just set up an experiment, please bear in mind it will take 24 hours for the data to be collected and analysed and be viewable in your account. I've got a screenshot here of one of our demo accounts. So within the demo account, there is an overview, which is what all of you will go into when you first go into Formisimo. I wanted to, first of all, for those of you that maybe haven't used Formisimo before, highlight what some of the figures are. So initially, you'll have the figure of total form visits. So that is anyone who's come onto your page and visited your form. We record that, we display it, and on this graph, you can see it as the green bar here. It's a useful figure to know. Then we display the number of form starters. So we class form starters as anyone who's visited your form and then gone on to interact with any one of the fields. This could be a click, it could be a tab, it could be a cursor or recursor response. So we record that and we show it there measured in the graph by the red line. We then go on to measure form conversions, which is why all of you are here. You want to up those conversion rates. So we're looking to measure those conversions and we display them here in the blue bars. Okay, and then we give you overall the percentage conversion rate, which we take from looking at the number of form conversions versus the total number of form visits. So if you take this number, you can use it and monitor it over time to test the efficacy of your form. Other things to notice about your overview view are these two little arrows here. These are really good percentages to be paying attention to. Your total number of form visits versus your form starters. That's people, you know, if someone hasn't become a form starter, that means they've left before they've even interacted with the form. So something's going on there. Formisimo won't be able to tell you what, but it will tell you that it's happening. So you want to up that percentage as much as possible. So as you can see here, 46% of people are leaving this form without even interacting with it. The second arrow, if you move along to the right slightly, you can see is at 47%. That tells you the number of form starters that are going on to complete. Again, you want to up that number as much as possible, and that percentage is the one that Formisimo really works well to help you do, because we help you in this instance find out why 53% of people would not be completing your form. Within your overview, if you look at the red box in the right there, you can see that you can pre-select a date range. Now this is great because you can select anything from a day to several months of data. You can look at over a campaign, or you can look at maybe you've made a change. You can look at data pre and post that change. What's really interesting about it as well is all of your reports are viewable within those date ranges. So all of your data will change depending on the date range you select. I also want to bring your attention here to our annotations. For those of you looking to optimize your form and look at what difference those changes make, annotations are super important because they timestamp your data. There are two types: automatic ones, which Formisimo will detect whether you've added or removed a form field. And we've also got manual annotations. So if you've changed anything about your form layout or appearance in any way, we advise you at this stage to add an annotation so that you can see the effect that change has on your data. Okay, so throughout this webinar, as I said, we're going to start to look at what the reports are and what they could mean for your form. Okay, so if I switch us now to this mode. Okay, so this is Formisimo working in action, a live demo account. So this is the bit that I was showing you before and all the numbers. But if I scroll down here, you'll be able to see some of the stats that you couldn't see in that screenshot. As I said, this is your overview panel. This is what you'll see when you first log in. So it's got some top line data for you. The things that are going to really point out this is an area for concern. If I bring your attention to this area here, the top left, form fails by country, that's really useful for those of you that are having localization issues, perhaps to do with language or any other aspects to do with your form. Here you can see that there's a high rate of fail in any other country other than the UK. Now, we know this form very well, and we know the reason why that is because the product isn't available anywhere outside the UK. So if anyone from any of these countries tries to use it, they won't be able to complete the form. So, but for those of you that maybe are a global company, if you get a high rate of fail in any one of those areas, you might want to look into it. If I move you over to the right here, you can see that we've got form fails by device. So our form fails by device is, again, quick top look at how your form is performing by device and if it's optimized for mobile or tablet, because some of the form fields and areas may not perform as well on other devices. Again, just highlights it for you there. Scroll down here, we've got form drop-offs. Now, Formisimo defines a form drop-off as when a visitor doesn't complete a form, and it then, in this report, will show you the last form field they interacted with. This is a really useful statistic for you, because you will find out what is the last form anyone interacted with before they left the form. So that's obviously a significant area to pay attention to. In this graph, you can see country is accounting for 23% of the people that are dropping off the form. And as I explained earlier in this data set, the reason why that would be is because a lot of people that are outside of the UK will not be able to complete the form. So that would explain it in this instance. But for yourselves, when you're using this data, it may be a different field, and again would pinpoint why people may be dropping off. If I move you over here, you can see our corrections, which are displayed in this donut here. Corrections will highlight to you, well, first I'll define what corrections are. So corrections are any interaction with the field that is either a delete or a backspace or a refocus. The reason why we display this as a graph is because corrections highlight to you where your users are having to come back and waste precious amounts of their time, their frustration points and points of friction. So those fields that have the highest number of corrections are really something you need to look at. Why are your form visitors having to correct things so often? So as you see here, we've got house or flat number that is coming up as one of the largest corrected fields. Again, because we know this form quite well, we know that this field relates to a postcode lookup that often sometimes gets it wrong, so people are having to go back and change that data. For you it may be something else, but again you're realizing where that might be. So that's your overview. We've got a lot of other reports though. So in your statistics here, we can look at completion time. For all of you that are trying to increase your conversion rates, you want to also reduce your completion time. So this gives you a top line of how long it's taking for your users to complete the form. And as you make changes to your form, you want to minimize the amount of time people are taking. We also have another report that looks at fields before submission. Fields before submission are again super important for looking at whether these fields are filled out, and if you've got a high number of fields, are people actually filling them out before completing, and therefore are all those fields necessary? Depending on what you're using Formisimo for will depend on how important this report is for you. We also have another statistic that looks at field time. So this will highlight to you which fields people are spending their most time in. Are they fields that you'd expect or not expect? Again, draws attention to you where people are having to spend a lot of time. So that's your form statistics overview. If I move on now to having a look at our form in-depth reports. So one of our most used reports by our customers is the popular drop-off. As you can see from the graph here, this displays by day, week or month the percentage of drop-offs over time. It's a really useful statistic. If we scroll down here, you can see these are all the fields that you've got in your form. It tells you on this part here what type of form it is. So this is a drop down, this is a text, this is a password field, a tick box. So that's really useful for you to at a glance see what type of field it is. It also tells you the field name, which if anyone hasn't found it yet, when you go in, you can edit the field name. And if you hover over it, you can see what the field name is within your actual form's HTML. So you go in, you have a look here, and you can see that how each field performs in terms of how many drop-offs it accounts for, the number of drop-offs, and the percentage of total drop-offs. We also try and color code it to try and make it a bit easier and show you the health of that field. And we work out the health by looking at how well that form field compares to every other field within your form, as well as other similar form fields within your industry. So those that are experiencing a low health are definitely the form fields you want to start targeting when you're trying to improve your form. Okay, if I move you on to the next report, we've got the field drill down report. So if we look at field drill down, again, it gives you some more granular data. Each form field here tells you the number of interactions that occur within the form fields, the number of drop-offs, and how many corrections are happening with each of those form fields. If we click on any one of these, it will take you to some in-depth data. So Within that, you can break down the interactions that are happening within each of your fields. For those of you that are adding in a new field, removing a field, changing something about it, you can see not only field times and corrections, you can see whether they're deletes, refocuses, cursor keys. It's really fine granular data. For those of you that are dealing with high levels of customer flow, this can be amazing to use. Again, it depends on use how you would apply it, but it's interesting to know of the corrections, what nature are they, and can you do anything to improve those? We've also got form issues. So we've accumulated your data into two really useful reports. That's your most corrected fields and problem fields. So in your most corrected fields, we've grouped here, you can see house and flat number came up like it did in the overview. It's got a high number of corrections. You can see the number of interactions. You can see how many refocuses, deletes, cursors, total, and then again, form health. So it again starts to highlight to you how well your fields are performing and where to target your time and attention. You can also see of all the interactions occurring within your field, how many of those are actually corrections. And over time, you want to minimize that as low as possible. And you also want to minimize the average number of corrections per form starter, because for every correction, it obviously means that someone's having to go back and waste time and potentially fall off of your checkout process. If I move you over then to our problem fields, which is probably my favorite one and a lot of our customers' favorite one. The reason why is quite nice and pretty and visual, but it also groups three types of data together. So it will show you a list of fields, the ones with the highest correction rates, time spent, and number of drop-offs. So as you can see in our top one here, not only is there a lot of drop-offs accounting for here, we're spending a lot of time and they're making a lot of corrections. And as you go down, you can see the proportion of how much is being spent here. So these top ones would be the ones where you'd start, you go, okay, these are performing really badly in all areas. But maybe once you've tackled some of them, maybe the correction issue or the drop-off issue, you maybe want to look at just time and drop-offs, or you just want to look at number of drop-offs. And again, you can see how each field is performing against each other really easily and visually. For those of you that are making advisements about what forms to change, this can be great to show your clients. It's a real easy visualization of saying this field's causing a problem for people. Okay, so that's an overview of how you might use all of those and tackle it. We've then got editing your experiment. So as you go through the process of using Formisimo, you may be changing things, you may be changing your form IDs, HTMLs, adding things. I just wanted to highlight to you that if you're going to edit your experiment, you can change experiment names, you can change domains, you can change the URL if it does change, and form name and IDs. If you do ever change a form name and ID, we would advise that you change it here, otherwise Formisimo will stop tracking it. I also wanted to bring your attention here to tracking of this form. We have 3 different ways that you can track your form, all of which will give you different data, and that depends on what you want to do. The one that we recommend is track this URL, including any parameters and variable URL elements that might appear after it. This one is ideal for those of you that have either dynamic URLs that are generated or use Google Analytics, and it will track your form. For some of you, track only this exact URL may be useful if you have multiple different forms on different URLs. Also, track this form everywhere it appears on my site is ideal for those of you that have the same form appearing across your whole site, and for example, like a contact form, but you want to measure its performance overall. Okay, also IP blocking, super important for those of you that regularly access your report. Tracking code is available as well. If you look in here, so if ever luckily for all of you, the tracking code and conversion tracking is the same for everyone, so you don't need a person-specific one, but if you're ever looking for it, you can find it in here. And we also have the ability to add dynamic fields. For those of you that have forms that generate different fields for each user's differently named field names, you can add them in here, the bits that are common amongst all of those fields, and we'll group that data together and analyze those fields in a grouped way. Okay, and I also wanted to let you know we've got a beta testing feature of real-time statistics, which is pretty cool. At the moment, this isn't live at the moment, but you will be able to see users viewing the form, users interacting, number of form conversions that have happened in the last 10 minutes, and the number of form drop-offs. So when you have set up your experiment and you want to have a check out who's using your form and what they're doing, this is brilliant. Can get a little bit addictive though, so watch that one. Okay, so that's how to use Formisimo. All of you will have many different uses for it, but those are how to make the most out of your reports. If I now bring you back to my slideshow, is that showing okay for everyone? So I wanted to then, as well as talking to you about the reports in general, obviously working with a lot of people that are optimizing their forms, we pick up some tips, we work out some common themes, and we wanted to share those insights with you today. So one of those is the high number of corrections. So what might be the reason for this? We found often a high number of corrections is that a form doesn't accept certain types of format of data. It might be a postcode with a space in it. It might be email addresses or something in a certain format. So this leads to a high number of corrections. Also poor labeling. So if people are entering things and not realizing that is what you're looking for, so that could be something to look at. And also no inline validation. For example, people often make mistakes in email addresses. If you have inline validation, people can make those changes straight away and see whether it's right or not, rather than having to come back and make corrections at the end. High number of drop-offs. Often the reasons we see that is users are not willing to give certain bits of information. You may have experienced it yourself. You're reading through a form, yep, I'm fine to complete all of this. Wait, why are they asking me for this? So this will highlight to you potentially that users are not willing to give that information and make you question, maybe if you're losing 40% of people at this field, is that information really worth it? You've got things like too many corrections at this stage. So maybe they're having to keep changing things, it's still not accepting it, and they've got frustrated and left. Maybe your form's too long, so they've got to that point and they can't be bothered to continue. Perhaps there's lots of errors after they've failed to submit. So they've submitted a thing, their form, and they're told that this isn't valid, maybe they're not told where the errors are or how to change them. And it also may be that there's unhelpful text in around that field. So that's often what we found accounts for the high number of drop-offs. In terms of high amount of time, we've often found that's been linked to the form being too long. Maybe a little bit obvious there, but again, it might highlight to you that you need to reduce how long your form takes to complete, that there's potentially too many fields, that there's too much text to read, because obviously everyone has to read what you want them to do. That the labels could be a bit confusing for people, and that information is not easily accessible. So are they having to go off and find a national insurance number, a passport number, maybe their credit card details? So that's what we've often found are the key causes for those three things. But depending on your form and what information you're looking for, this may be very different. It's just to give you a kind of idea. I also wanted to share with you some Formisimo best practice, because we don't want you to be using it for a while and then think, oh, something's gone wrong. If you follow these guidelines, you should be totally fine. So first of all, what we'd say is make sure each of your forms that you're looking to track has a unique form ID and name. So if multiple of your forms have the same ones, there's potential for the data to get confused. So if they each have unique form names and IDs, that way you can differentiate the data very, very easily. We also notice some common problems are when people type in the URLs for the form. Make sure you copy and paste it exactly how it is in the address bar. I also want you to highlight the tracking conversion codes are in the right place, which we do tell you, and always get in contact with us. We're happy to check. And those of you that are on a free or basic account, we'd always really advise you trying a paid account before, because the value of them is so high and you'll get 2 weeks of really awesome data if you're doing it that way. I'd also highlight to you that you use the data to guide your decision making. We don't tell you what decisions to make, but you use this as your tool. and that you use annotations to timestamp any changes and build in suitable time to see the impact of the changes. What we say here is don't be impatient. You know, you're not going to see enough data in 3 days to make a change and then see the impact of that change in 2 days. You have to set quite reasonable time periods for each change to measure the effect. And yeah, so that was our main thing here. I also would like you to put any questions to us via @Formisimo in the live chat or email. You can see our blog for tips as well, which is written by Hazel. If you go in here, we've got tons and tons of topics relating to conversion rate optimization, form analytics, and various other things. Great tool base from you. And I also wanted, this is a little picture of our team here at Formisimo. We're based in Manchester in the UK. We're a super passionate, happy team looking to help you all out. This is just 8 of us. There is 10 at the moment. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a few faces that these are all the people that are going to be trying to help you out and get the most out of your forms. So has anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask? If so, we've got one. How would an A/B test of the checkout process affect Formisimo data? It depends on what kind of A/B test you're doing here. If you've got different URLs that you're A/B testing, shouldn't be a problem. We'll just set it to track this exact URL, and then you can analyze the data in 2 separate tests. Does that answer your question? Brilliant. No problem, Jacob. Anyone else got any questions? No? Team, anything to add before we sign off today? Oh, thank you very much, Leanne. Much appreciated. Yeah, so we're hoping to host some webinars in the future. Obviously, this was a demo and kind of my first one as well, so thanks for being here, to kind of show you the features and the reports. We'd love to hear from you what you'd like to see in future webinars, because as Customer Champion, I want to make sure you're getting the most out of Formisimo and getting the information you're looking for. So if you want to put any topics to me, send me an email, speak to me on live chat, and we'll aim in the next webinar to cover those things. Okay then. Thank you very much. This is Laura signing off.